Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And it is Sunday, so we're doing breaches of the week. And I would like to give a shout out to Rebecca Rutherford and Chris Fallon for sending me information. Guys, you always make my life easier. And if you have any information on a data breach, please send it my way. I'm happy to include you and your information in this. It always saves me time. But with that, let's move on. We're heading to the United Kingdom and we're talking about a product called BioStar 2 by a company called Suprema or Suprema. Now, this is a biometrics lock system that allows centralized control for access to secured facilities, warehouses, office buildings, this kind of stuff. Now, their primary clients are people like the UK Metropolitan Police, defense contractors, banks, etc. And you know where I'm going with this. The fingerprints of over 1 million people, as well as facial recognition information, unencrypted usernames and passwords, and personal information of employees was discovered in a publicly accessible database. So hopefully they're going to clean that up. But if your company uses BioStar 2 by Suprema, heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to hit up Choice Hotels out of the United States. They own Econo-Lodge, Comfort Inn, and Quality Inn. 700,000 guest records were exposed after one of their vendors copied out information. Hackers found this information and tried to ransom it against Choice Hotels, and they ignored that. But you're looking at 5.7 million records that didn't require authorization online that were Choice Hotels. So hopefully that will be cleared up. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Credit Karma. I remember doing a video on them a couple of months ago in Breaches of the Week for another breach, so they are back on my radar for news. A user complained, and I quote, "First time logging in, it gave me my information, but as soon as I refreshed the screen, it gave me someone else's info. Refreshed again, and bam, someone else's info. It's like roulette." Now, a spokesperson for Credit Karma said, and I quote, "What our members experienced this morning was a technical malfunction that has now been fixed. There is no evidence of a data breach." They would also not disclose how many people were hit, but Credit Karma, that is a data breach. If I can log into your site and read somebody else's information, that's a data breach. Might be caused by a glitch, but that's a data breach. Get some perspective. Moving on, we're going to go to Cabarrus County, North Carolina. They lost $1.7 million in funds to social engineering. And here we go. So basically what ended up happening is the scammers pretended to be a general contractor, were able to trick somebody out of $2.5 million of taxpayer money, and then they were able to recover some of it when they realized the mistake, and so they're only out $1.7 million of tax money. So if you live in Cabarrus County, North Kakalaka, heads up to you. Moving on, we're talking about the European Central Bank. They just shut down one of their websites on Thursday after it was hacked and infected with malicious software. Now, they have something called the Bank Integrated Reporting Directory and a newsletter, and they say that you may have been affected by that because the malware hit the server that sign up was running on. So your email address, name, and title might have been stolen in this breach, but they're saying nothing else happened. This dates back to December of 2018 and was just recently caught. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Grays Harbor Community Hospital and Harbor Medical Group in Washington State. They're notifying patients of a recent ransomware attack that may have impacted the records of their patients, and those record information includes patients' medical records, patients' personal information, demographic information, insurance information, medical history, medical treatment, and billing information. So if you have anything to do with Grays Harbor or Harbor Medical Group, heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to Credia.ge out of the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia. This is a micro-lending organization. They had an Elasticsearch misconfiguration that ended up getting labeled as compromised on Shodan, and that contained 142,571 user records, which contains username, full address, birthday, passport number, email, loan amount, tax ID code, IBAN, IBAN number, UniCard ID, and loan status if you were denied or granted a loan. So heads up to you if you use Credia.ge out of the country of Georgia. Heading back to the United States, we're going to be talking about Texas. Now, you might realize a couple of months ago, or remember rather, that I was talking about the state of Georgia in the United States being attacked, their government entities and all of that. Now Texas is next one up on the list. Now the Department of Information Resources is leading a response to basically a massive attack across the state. And it's a coordinated ransomware attack that has impacted at least 20 local governments across the state of Texas. The agencies impacted by the attack have not been named. So like Georgia, Texas is now under attack from what seems to be a coordinated ransomware attack. Moving on, we're keeping in the United States, and we're talking about the supermarket chain of Hy-Vee. Now, credit card payment information for some of their customers was exposed in a recent data breach. This is a company that's out of Iowa, so it's a Midwestern chain. I don't know if they're nationwide. They operate 245 stores, and they say there was a security incident involving the payment processing system at their fuel pumps, drive-through coffee shops, and restaurants. These restaurants include Market Grills, Market Grill Express, Wahlburgers, and basically Hy-Vee stores themselves. So if you've swiped a credit card at a Hy-Vee owned anything, heads up to you. Moving on, we're heading to Charleston County, South Carolina. Their employees' identifying information basically got exposed because a human resources employee accidentally sent out a list of information to a former county employee. So if you work for Charleston, South Carolina, the county rather, your name, date of birth, social security number, gender, salary, hire date, whether they were eligible for retiree health care, and whether they're active or inactive as an employee, you might have been exposed. So heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to Michigan Medicine in the state of Michigan. 5,500 patients have had their health records exposed in a phishing scam, basically exposing everything from diagnostic and treatment information to basically a small subset, according to the article, of social security numbers. Basically, 3 people clicked on the phishing link, and guys, this underscores the need for awareness training, especially for HIPAA compliance. Moving on, we're talking about Delta Airlines. Now, if you are not familiar, a couple of years ago, Delta Airlines had a bit of a data breach, and they are now suing a company called 247 or 247.ai for not securing their chatbots properly. Now, these are chatbots that Delta used on their website. So in other words, if you wanted a Q&A with Delta on their website, you'd actually be talking to a chatbot supplied by 24AI, and apparently they didn't secure them, at least according to Delta. Now, Delta is also accusing 247 of waiting more than 5 months to inform the airline of their particular data breach. And so obviously that's a serious problem. My advice to Delta, I don't think anybody outside of Delta wants to talk to a chatbot. Go get some humans on your chat line. That would make life easier for everybody. You're a great airline nevertheless. Moving on, let's get a quick update on the Pearson school update here now, because Pearson is that massive data breach that is exposing tens of millions of kids in multiple school districts. And so we are starting to see school districts respond and publicly declare a breach. So this week in Indiana, Carmel Clay School District, in Illinois, Valley View School District 365, Fremont School District, DuPage County Consolidated School District 89, and Waukegan School District 60. In North Dakota, it's Bismarck Public Schools. In Georgia, it's Floyd County Schools. So heads up to you. I will continue to update this because this one is going to have massive fallout. Now we're going to talk about real quick Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton, and I did a video on this, diving into this, a Senate intelligence report was released basically regarding the investigation. And while it is confirmed that we cannot 100% say, or we cannot confirm that Chinese intelligence hacked her email server, we do know that somebody broke into it because the report states that somebody had basically broken into her Microsoft Exchange email server. This is the homebrew email server, as it was called, as she had in her home, and basically inserted a script or programming into it so that anytime an email came in or went out, it was automatically copying a Gmail account. And of the 30,000 emails that were reviewed, only 4 were not blinded to this Gmail account. This Gmail account was called Carter Heavy Industries. Carter Heavy Industries is a Chinese trucking company and a known reported cutout of Chinese intelligence, but that does not mean that Carter Heavy Industries was involved in this, because anybody can go and create a Carter Heavy Industry email on Gmail or another platform. But we do know her email was exposed, and that is a massive data breach because that is the secretary or former secretary of the United States. So that is a massive compliance, cybersecurity, and cyber warfare ramification all wrapped into one. And finally, let's talk about Kaspersky, because this is probably one of the largest data breaches in the history of the world, and it continues to unfold as Kaspersky is a complete mess. We found out that Russian intelligence a couple of years ago basically turned Kaspersky into a listening platform, 400 million endpoints that basically they could access at will. And this is absolutely nuts. For almost 4 years, Kaspersky was injecting a unique identifier into the HTML of every website that a user visited, making it possible for sites to identify people when using incognito mode or when they switched between Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. And I quote the researcher that found this. In other words, any website can read the user's Kaspersky ID and use it for tracking. If the same universally unique identifier comes back or appears on another website of the same operator, they can see that the same computer is being used. If this assumption is correct, Kaspersky has created a dangerous tracking mechanism that makes tracking cookies look old. In that case, websites can track Kaspersky users even if they switch to a different browser. Worse yet, the super tracking can even overcome the browser's incognito mode. So if you have Kaspersky on your computer right now, remove it. It has been known awful. The U.S. government has basically said we will no longer use Kaspersky for the U.S. military, for Congress, for anything sensitive at all. And now we find out that Kaspersky has a massive tracking system that is basically integrated into every copy of Kaspersky Antivirus. If you are running Kaspersky Antivirus, you do not necessarily know where your data is going at this point. We have multiple governments around the world killing them, removing them out of this. It's a complete mess, and now we find out that for 4 years, you've been completely tracked, so much for incognito mode, so much for privacy. This continues to be one of the largest, if not the largest, data breach of people, 400 million plus so far, and growing. This is insane. Stop using Kaspersky. And those are your breaches of the week, and I hope you were not affected, but I'm guessing you were. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please subscribe to me at YouTube whenever you get a chance. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.